pick up midway through a sentence. But nowadays, with people getting used to that, I have to start at weirder places in sentences so they can't tell what's just been going on beforehand.
Oh, that's the fun way of doing it. And I like the spontaneity of, just click and record, pick it up halfway through a sentence, and we just move along. I don't like a formatted podcast. I like the organic conversation of getting to know someone and let other people experience that with me. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, awesome. That's exactly what I'm trying to do here, and we have a whole bunch of different ways. Like I like this. I stumbled upon this 36 questions a couple of years ago when I was doing some sociology research, and it's just this really fun way of 36 get to know you questions that they've actually researched it now. It's been replicated in enough studies. And then tested before and after that these 36 questions really do generate a whole lot of closeness between people that have never spoken before. So I sometimes play with that. And then other times I think it's just, it's more fun just having a very open conversation, treating it like play and go, we've got some while to get to know someone. Yeah.
Yeah, those questions are a good guideline. I scanned over it briefly, but I purposely didn't think of any answers to it. I just scanned over the questions. I'm like, these are great questions to get to know someone. Let me just take them as they come.
Yeah, they're fun, aren't they?
But be ready. I might throw some questions back at you. So,
well, I hope so, because otherwise it's a pretty it's a boring conversation, but a good interview. I find if So. Let's locate how we know each other. I'll tell my little bit of the story was that I've been talking about this a lot. So 2 weeks ago, I flew to Norway for the World Bench Press Championships in Norway, and all throughout the first day, we had 2 platforms running. I think there was a female announcer on platform 1. I think she might have been from Finland. Is that right?
Finland, yeah.
Yep. And then there was this beautiful male voice over on platform 2 that was just like perfect timing, and it was great to listen to. And that was yourself.
Well, thank you for that compliment. I kind of was asked to do that last minute, and I didn't even have to think about it. I'm thinking, of course. And for me, it was perfect timing. I've been away from competing for going on 6 years now, because of injuries and surgeries and stuff like that. We can talk about that later, but I'm back into serious training, and I've got a very clear goal formulated now. And to be the speaker for that event was incredibly motivating, and I needed that. I needed that kick in the pants to kind of get me on fire about training again, get me on fire about powerlifting. And it was good timing, and I had a lot of fun. I'm just now getting my voice back, though. That was a lot of talking.
Right. It was. You guys had your work cut out for you, especially with the conditions inside that hall. It's a big open space that was really good at blowing lots of dust and chalk about.
And the first 4 days, for Norway anyway, it was crazy hot. Unusually warm, so I was really struggling with the heat. It was very tiring physically, and I guess you could say I speak for a living, but I'm not used to speaking for 10, 12 hours every day for 7 days. That was new to me.
Yeah, that was a big effort, man. That was a really big effort. Now, obviously, you don't sound Norwegian. And since getting back, I found out that you and the great David Ricks grew up really close to each other in Ohio.
That is correct. I'm from Ohio in the United States, a very small town called Norton. At that time, when I was a kid, we were maybe 3,500 people, but spread out over a fairly large area. Now, David Ricks was from the town next to us, Barberton. And They were our athletic rivals all through grade school and high school. And David Ricks is about 10 years older than me, so I heard about him from when I was a little kid. He and I think he had 2 brothers, were great athletes as far back as I can remember. So to catch up to him after all of these years and finally get to meet him face to face was quite the thrill. I've known David on social media for about 10 years now,
Right.
since I've been powerlifting, but I never had the chance to meet him face to face. So I had him the day before the World Bench Press Championship started. I had him here at my home in Norway for dinner. It's just mind blowing how small the world is. All things come back around.
It really is. And then
to meet him here in my home in Norway.
Especially within the strength community, there's so much overlap there, isn't there? Yeah.
There really is. There's a lot of good people in powerlifting. I say it all the time. Some of the best people I know, even though I haven't met them face to face, I just know them from online, or maybe I have met them face to face, but it's just briefly at a competition somewhere. But such beautiful people in powerlifting. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that's why I really enjoy sort of the theme around this podcast. I kind of refer to it as powerlifters not talking about powerlifting. Because I would go, especially for me, I was from a tiny town in the northwest of Western Australia, so 16 hours from the nearest major city. I was the only powerlifter for a long way around, so my connection to the powerlifting community was flying all over the world and connecting with people that way. And so I've got all these people in my life that I've known for 15 or 20 years, but I know them 12 months apart for maybe half an hour at a time. And so this way, it's been a lot of fun being able to sit down for a couple of hours and just go, so tell me about the rest of you, other than the squat, bench, and deadlift. What makes you you? Why did we end up in the same town in Norway together? You know?
Well, now I would have to go back to. Now I'm from Ohio, but I was living in the Chicago area from 1995 until I moved to Norway in 2002. And while I was living in the Chicago area, I ran into the legendary Eddie Cohen.
At Quad's Gym?
At Quad's Gym, yes. Yeah. At Quad's Gym. It's kind of funny how we met. I was benching, and he and 3 or 4 guys in his crew, man, he had like 7, 8 guys that he used to train with. They all walked in to bench. And I didn't know much about powerlifting, but I knew who Eddie Cohen was at that time, and I knew that he trained there. Mm-hmm. And when he walked in, of course, he was easily recognizable. Nobody looks like that. And he walked up to me, and I actually felt myself kind of puffing up my chest, getting ready for a confrontation because I was training in his area. But he walked up to me, and in the nicest, most gentlemanly voice, he said, "Hey, do you mind if we train with you?" And I was like, okay, this is how he is. And that was day one of our friendship. We've since kind of fallen apart, since I've moved here. But oddly enough, it is Ed Cohen's wife or girlfriend at that time, Hege Nielsen. She's Norwegian. She's the one that introduced me to my wife.
Oh, get out.
My wife came to Chicago to visit Hege, and Hege introduced us. And long story short, we ended up dating for a while. And then in 2001, in April 2001, we got married. We lived in the Chicago area for about 18 months, and then we ended up moving to Norway. Now, there's a lot of interesting details. It's an interesting story packed into that little short synopsis, but that's basically how I came to Norway in 2002. Very unexpected, no plan, didn't speak the language, had no idea what I was going to do, but here I am.
There you go.
Here I am working. It worked out well. I've got a great life, a great career. We have 2 children here. Our son is 17. Our daughter is 19. Life is good. And I get to do fun stuff.
Yeah, right.
I don't work. I do fun things for a living. That's what I say.
Yeah, most of that is true for me as well. I don't work. I do fun things, just maybe not for a living. Just take the living.
Well, and there's the beauty of my life here in Norway. I'm able to do things that I enjoy and actually make a living off of it. I have my podcast. I don't have any sponsors on my podcast, but I sponsor my own work through my podcast. I'm an author. I have a book, It's an ebook that I read for people, and they subscribe to it for $5 a month. And that subscription keeps me inspired to keep writing because people are waiting. And at the same time as it brings in a monthly income from my book. So from my podcast, I've gotten a lot of radio gigs here in Norway. I've been on Norwegian television fairly regularly as a social and political commentator. Yeah, what can I say?
Yeah,
I
the
just
people
use
you meet at
I use
Powerlifting.
my voice. I
Yeah.
use my voice and my love of people, my curiosity of humanity has actually given me a living.
Man, that is so comforting and reassuring to hear, because that's, I think that's what we all aspire to. And I know for myself, I was in education for a very long time, and we always tell young people, that the ideal is to find out what you're passionate about, what lights you up, and
Yeah.
things that are really fun, and then just do it for the sake of doing it, not expecting it to be rewarding, but hopefully that reward will take care of itself. So to actually
Yeah.
hear and meet people doing that and living that is really cool.
Yeah. It's, I guess I was kind of forced. No, I don't want to say that because it was more positive than that. Like I said, when I came here to Norway, I didn't have a plan because it all happened so unexpectedly. I'll get into that story, but it happened unexpectedly. And in a way, it was an enormous opportunity to push all of the distractions out of my life and start focusing on the things that I actually enjoyed and start from there. And it that erasing of those distractions is what put me in this position to be able to do these things that I enjoy. I'm also a musician. Now, I've always loved music, but I couldn't call myself a musician until I came to Norway because I made the time to actually pursue it. I do a lot of writing. I write for a lot of different artists. I have my own solo project, and that's another source of income, something that would have just been a hobby, a distracting hobby back home in America has become something that actually brings me, it's still a hobby in that I love it, but it's actually contributing financially to my life. And to be able to do these things and not call it work, it keeps the love of it in place. There's no stress element in any of the things I do, and I just love it. It keeps me young.
I got to ask you, when you got
Yeah.
off the plane day one in Norway, like,
Yeah.
what did you do? Do you remember that day?
I do. The officers in customs at the airport here in Norway pulled me aside. And I'm a fairly big guy now, but back then I was much leaner, jacked, and I just had that look. So they suspected me of maybe importing something. So they pull me aside, and one guy is going through my stuff, and another guy asked if he could look into my wallet. I said, sure, go ahead. And he opens it up, and the first thing he saw was my police officer identification from the States. I worked as a police officer, of course, up until that day when I quit and came to Norway. And he looked at it and he just closed and he says, why didn't you tell us? I said, well, I'm no longer an officer. And also, you didn't ask. So that was my introduction as a resident here in Norway. But it was all in good nature, and they laughed, I laughed, and that was that. And I remember that drive from the airport with my wife because she came here a couple of months before I did. Of course, we were already married and living in Chicago, but she left 3 months ahead of me, and then I followed. So I remember that drive from the airport to where we were staying out by her parents' house. And one phrase, 3 words just kept going over and over in my head. And it was, oh my God. Oh my God. I couldn't believe that I had actually dropped everything, an excellent police officer career, all my friends and family, everything I knew, gone. And now I'm going over to this. And it was just, oh my God. But within a few days after that, my mindset changed from, oh my God, to, okay, let's do this, you know? And I decided I'm going to learn the language. I'm going to find some type of career or work to do that I enjoy, and I'm not going to stress. And what gave me the presence of mind and the freedom of thought to actually go into that mindset is the beautiful relationship that I had and still have with my wife. If she had not been the vital pillar of my life that she was and still is, I wouldn't have had the presence of mind or the ability even to start thinking so quickly in a positive way about this tremendous change in my life. Yeah.
Tell me more about that shift from oh my God to okay. What was the tone of the oh my God versus the tone of the okay?
Well, I'll go back. I'll tell you why why we ended up moving to Norway. Like I said, I was working as a police officer. I was a narcotics and gang detective in a suburb on the south side of Chicago.
I've spent time in Chicago.
But let me say this: our suburb was fairly safe and a fairly good place to live at that time. However, south side of Chicago, everybody reacts when they hear that. Yeah. Everybody knows that's where the gang problem is. Most of the gang problem, most of the drug problems. So we had our share of work to do. I had come into working an investigation that turned out to be, it exposed a fairly large and active gang. And we're talking everything about, counterfeit money, of course, drug sales, weapon sales, murder for hire, the whole Chicago gang thing. They found out where we lived. Yeah, they found out where we lived. So one night, about 11:30 at night, we had just gone to bed, my wife and I, and we got a phone call from our neighbor. She's like the typical nosy old lady who's always looking out her window. Well, thank God that she actually did this, because she called us and said, hey, there's 2 or 3 guys that just climbed the fence in your backyard and they're walking up towards the house. So I had my wife call 911. I had my police radio there, so I went on the radio band and put the call out. Long story short, a bunch of officers came to our house. They caught 2 of the guys. One of them got away, but they caught 2, and one of those 2 was armed. So it's kind of obvious what they were there to do. So I found all of this out that evening. The next day, I just stayed at work and I'm working the next day. Then a call goes out. We shared a radio frequency with I think it was 4 other Chicago suburbs. So one of the other suburbs put a call out. There was a large disturbance at this gym. And I can't remember the name of the gym now, but it's where my wife worked as an instructor. Right. And I'm like, oh God, no. So I went over on that call as well. It turns out 15, 20 guys from this gang showed up where she worked. And it's obvious what they were there to do. But anyway, tons of police from all of the surrounding districts came there. The whole thing got resolved. That day, I took a leave of absence, drove my wife 7 hours up to some friends up in Minnesota. I stayed there with my wife for a couple of days and we're talking things through and all this. I left her there. I came back, and our police department at that time had a residency requirement. If you're a police officer for that town, you have to live in that town. So I asked for an exception to that. I got to move. I can't have these people knowing what, it's one thing if they know where I live, but they know where my wife lives. They know where my wife works. We have to fix this. And I didn't get the support that I needed from the police department. So that is what led to me quitting. I I didn't want to make that decision, but really it was not a hard decision. My safety and my wife's safety or not.
Yeah.
You know? So what is there to think about? I went back up to Minnesota, went on a plane with my wife to Norway. I stayed here for about 2 weeks, flew back to Chicago, worked that case a little bit more because at that time I hadn't made up my mind whether or not I was going to quit.
Right.
But I did take a leave of absence for those 2 weeks while I was in Norway with my wife, thinking it through. I went back, I worked the case for about another month and a half, all the while trying to talk with the police chief and the leaders there. And they just wouldn't give me the situation that I needed to continue working there, to feel safe. And I quit. We got rid of everything, and I joined my wife in Norway on the 5th of June, 2002.
Wow.
Today is my anniversary of being in Norway.
Oh, there you go. I'm glad you could be retelling that story to an Australian on that anniversary.
So what led to me having that mindset of, oh my God, was that it all just happened so quickly. There was the shock of it happening at all. You know, these people finding out where I lived and, you know, coming with these kind of threats, very clear threats about what they wanted to do. The shock of not getting the support from people who I thought were my friends and colleagues at my job. The shock of removing myself from quite a good career. I loved it. I loved that job. It was exciting. It was very giving. You know, you have a feeling of actually, you know, doing something. So that's the source of that. Oh my God. Literally my whole life was just turned upside down. The rug was just yanked out of me when it came to identity and purpose. That sense of, not my entire sense of self, but a big part of my sense of self as this guy who did this job, who was giving back to the community. It was just yanked out from underneath me. So, hence the feeling of, oh my God.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it can relate. So I had, was it 8 years ago? I had 5 strokes simultaneously, all came at once. Yeah. So that when you're saying that oh my God, and the what I was kind of getting at is, oh my God has so many different iterations, and that that tonal change that happens with oh my God, from like wide-eyed oh my God, what the fuck just happened now, to oh my God,
because I also said oh my God,
that really happened.
Yeah, you know, because I also said, oh my God, the first time I saw my wife. That's a different oh my God.
Yeah.
I also said, oh my God, when I was at my one and only Prince concert, and I was in the front row and he was like 3 feet away from me on the stage. Oh my God. So, oh my God can be used in so many different circumstances.
We're going to talk about Prince later for sure, because I want to know way more about that.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. So that really is other side of the world, loss of connection, loss of, like, you could really run off a lot of things, the purpose, the community, the support, all of that.
Well, it's traumatic. It was a traumatic change. And don't get me wrong, I have turned everything around to the positive, and I did that actually very quickly. It's been, I've been here in Norway for 23 years as of today, and I would say that 22 of those years have just been absolute bliss.
Yeah.
So I've turned it around. However, the trauma of a change like that will be with me for the rest of my life. I left a lot behind. I changed a lot. A lot was taken from me. I walked away from a lot, but other things were taken from me, which is totally different than walking away from something.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. The lack of choice, or the finding out that we very rarely had choice in the first place, but making it very real and confronting like that is, it's a big deal. And so I'm really interested in how you went from that oh my God to okay so quickly.
I think that By nature, I'm a very positive person, and that comes from everything that I had ever achieved and all of my experiences up until that point in 2002. I had a lot of success in my life. I was used to struggling through challenges willingly. A lot of people will struggle through challenges with a sense of self-pity.
Yep.
I learned very quickly, and this is because I joined the United States Marines and went through boot camp and went through all of those experiences as a Marine, where we are taught to be faced with challenge and be ready for that challenge, even though you're not ready.
Yeah.
In other words, you're going to learn how to overcome this, that, or the other, whether it's a physical challenge, a psychological challenge, a social challenge, or whatever it may be. You will meet that challenge and you'll find a way. You're good enough to work it out. And if you're not good enough, you can become good enough. And I love that.
That's all. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Now, I could do without any more challenges in my life. I've had enough of that. But when these challenges come forward, I absolutely love headbutting it, grabbing it by the throat, shaking it up, and then trying to move through it. I absolutely enjoy that process because it's about growth. It's about growth. And that same thought process to life's challenges, I believe, are applicable to powerlifting and vice versa. You know, life is a 750-pound bar on my back when I'm squatting. That's life also, and vice versa.
Have you ever come across the Henry Rollins essay, Iron in the Soul?
I have heard of it, but I have not read it.
Yes, I read that 1992, and
I met Henry Rollins, by the way,
very
briefly at Quads.
Really?
At Quads way back in, I want to say it was it 95 or 96, very early when I moved to Chicago. I just ran into him. I got to shake his hand and say hi, and then he kept going at Quads.
What was he like?
Like I say, it was just in passing. I was just like, oh, wow, Henry Rollins. I don't want to bother you, but man, nice to meet you. I love what you do. But oh, thanks, man. Thanks. How you doing today? Are you going in the lift? Okay, man. See you later. I got to run. See you later. Thanks, man. And he was gone. It was that.
Yeah,
quick.
right.
But he was very pleasant.
Oh, very cool.
He was obviously in a hurry. I don't think he avoided a long conversation because he didn't want to talk. I think he generally had to go somewhere, but I got an impression that he's just a down to earth, regular kind of guy.
Yeah. The couple of lines that are always, and I told this to the Australian team that I had with me this year when I met you, and this idea that the bar will never lie to you. That you can come and go, you leave the gym, people can call you a god or a bastard, they can tell you the truth, they can do whatever, but 200 pounds is always 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And I love that. For me, everything that I've been through, both when I was younger or through my 20s up until now, just going all over the place, that bar being consistent, I think is one of those really, really awesome things about powerlifting or strength sports in general.
Yeah, the thing with powerlifting, and this is what I love, and again, I apply this to my life in general. The thing with powerlifting is, like you say, the bar is the bar, the weight is the weight, and you either lift it or you don't. And if you don't lift it, but you want to lift it, the journey or the path you have to take in order to be able to lift that is so rewarding.
Yeah.
Even if you never lift that weight, that journey, the path towards that attempt gives you so much in the way of discipline, focus, goal setting, learning your limits, learning how you are limitless. It's such a journey.
Yeah. So true. So we're going back, getting to OK. You got to OK really, really fast.
I did. You asked me that like 10 minutes ago. I talk too much.
Oh no, I love it. And so much of what the fun of it is so much of what you're saying. Even some of the phrases I'm going, oh yeah, I say that all the time. That's me. And it's nice hearing somebody else think along the same lines and really pull the same lessons from powerlifting out.
Well, thank you for recognizing that. I think you and I are kindred spirits. I got that impression almost right away when I met you a couple of weeks ago
Nice.
here. No, but I got to that. Okay, let's do this phase. I got to that phase very quickly because an opportunity presented itself. There's a British gentleman from London who at that time had been in Norway for about 15 years. And he was the head of a department here in the local county where he was starting a project, or he wanted to start a project that was connected to the local schools. And this project would help teenagers who were kind of on the edge of trouble stay out of trouble. But he needed someone to run that program. My wife knew his wife from way back, and I don't remember exactly how, but my wife said something to that lady, and she said something to her husband about me just arriving in Norway, literally less than a week ago, and being a former police officer who worked a lot with, like I said, I was a narcotics and gang detective, and unfortunately, that means that I worked with children a lot.
I was going to say, you're going to work with a lot of young people doing that.
Yeah. So he heard about that, and he contacted me, and we ended up talking, and I would say it was within 2 weeks after me getting here, I had a job, but not just a job. I was the head of a project, and I would get to run that project any way I wanted. Now, this was before I had any work experience in Norway. This was before I could speak the language. That opportunity fell in my lap, and you could say that is the trampoline that I bounced off of to continue doing that type of work where I was trying my best to give back to society. To be able to work with that project and help kids, be the go-between between the different organizations, whether it's child services or the school system or whatever, but be the go-between between those institutions and the family. It just fell right in place with what I had already been doing to a large degree as a police officer. So in that sense, it was a very smooth transition, work-wise, identity-wise, and purpose-wise. So it was a very, very quick turnaround from that time of extreme uncertainty to a sense of security and, okay, this can work. So that was in the summer. That was in June of 2002. We agreed that I would start a few weeks after the school year. So I didn't start until I think it was like the 15th of October, like the middle of October that year. So I had, a couple, 3 months where my wife and I just kind of relaxed. We took a long road trip all through Norway, all up through the mountains and the fjords. We drove from her parents' house, which is in southeast Norway, all the way up to where we now have our second home, way up in the Finnmark region, which was a three-day drive, way up on the other end of Norway. So it was that drive and the sightseeing and just getting a sense of where I was. I'll never forget that trip. I love road trips, but that is my all-time favorite road trip when we toured all of Norway, zigzagging back and forth all the way up to where our place is up in the north on the coast.
Oh my gosh.
It's beautiful.
So how far, like you're up inside the Arctic Circle there, or like how far north is that?
Yeah. Well, where we live now is in a town called Drammen, which is in southeast. It's southeast Norway. We're about an hour from Oslo. And that our other place, our second home, is way above the Arctic Circle. If you look at the island called Seiland, it's Seiland. That's where it is. It's way up, like long past the Arctic Circle.
Oh, wow. So you get like Northern Lights and all those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you look at my Facebook, we're Facebook friends. If you look at my Facebook today, there's a picture of our children playing in the low tide in front of our home up there. Oh, you just get a sense of how it's right on the ocean. It's just absolutely beautiful.
Magnificent.
I'm a fortunate man to have a place like that. But that's a hint that you have to marry properly. That's my wife's.
Marry well.
That's my wife's place. I keep saying my place. It's actually my wife's place. Marry up or sideways, never down. Marry up or sideways.
Yeah, good advice for anybody. Good advice. I just put it that whole thing of going from the oh my god to okay.
Yeah.
I can see how important the attitude that you develop from being a Marine is in there, because it would be the world's easiest thing to go, oh, sorry, I'm not available right now. Bad time in my life. Just lost my job. Lost everything.
Because
everything's bad.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I was very, very depressed. I was very depressed, very down. And like I said, I had no idea. And I think back on that a lot. And I'm just thankful for my positive, past, my positive background before that incident, because if I had any less of a drive, of a go get 'em type of attitude, I would have probably said, this is not the right time. And then who knows what would have happened? What would I have done? What kind of career would I have had? Or would I have not had a career at all? Would have just been a series of jobs, which is okay. But yeah, things could have been so different. So I'm very thankful for my positive outlook in general.
Yeah. So you see, I'm a big fan of this kind of stuff, and it's been really important for me. And I'll share a story with you in a second about it. That whole idea, you said you're depressed, and I think anybody having gone through that, and it's a multiple near-death experiences, and then a loss of a lot of stuff, that's hugely traumatic. And if you weren't depressed, something would be wrong. What fascinates me is what people can do when they're depressed.
Meaning that even though someone is depressed, they can still persevere?
I always talk about depressed and. Right, I'm depressed and I'm something else. Even though I'm depressed, I can manage this. And it's always depressed and. So this is with a brain injury, big thing I deal with regularly. 2 weeks before I was meant to come to Norway, we lost our dog. He's my best friend. It really hit me hard.
Oh.
I was so depressed for that 2 weeks before I got on the flight that even on the day that I was meant to be boarding, I didn't want to pack a suitcase. My wife packed my suitcase for me.
Well, depression is paralyzing, is it not?
And it was all I could do was go, yep, that pair of shorts, cool. Yeah, that shirt, okay, thanks. And then even driving to the airport, I was thinking through my head, I could easily just say, sorry guys, I can't do it. Everyone will understand. Nobody will hate me for it. But that would be kind of over. Powerlifting would be done for me. And so that whole idea of going, I'm depressed, but fuck it, let's do it anyway. I can be depressed in Norway.
Let me point out. It's these beautiful ladies in our life that pull us up. You said she ended up packing your suitcase. If she hadn't done that, maybe you would have just canceled everything that had to do with coming. Yeah,
it would have been so much easier to.
And that's kind of what I experienced over and over and over again. That my wife fills in my gaps.
Yeah.
She knows me so well. She knows what inspires me. She knows what motivates me. She knows what makes me the happiest, even when I forget that. And when I forget it, she sees it and she reminds me. So, I was talking about starting that project was my first job here, but from there I went on to do things where I was self-employed, starting my own businesses. I started 3 gyms and ran 3 gyms at one point, and on and on and on, up until I started my podcast and working in radio. And that is entirely because of my wife's reminder of what I need to do in order to be happy. Because the 5th of November, 2019, I lost my son from my previous marriage. I lost him to a heroin overdose. And talk about being depressed, I lost my son and I was just totally out of it. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't do anything, And after a few weeks of that, my wife said, why don't you find something that inspires you? Why don't you go back to what motivates you? And if you don't remember what motivates you, why don't you look for those qualities in other people? Why don't you start a podcast and start talking to whoever you want, whoever you think might inspire you or motivate you? We had that conversation, and within a week later, I started my podcast. All because she reminded me of my love of others, my love of inspiration and motivation, my love of the story of other people and what can that do to help me and others.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for her, there's so many instances where if it wasn't for my wife, I just wouldn't be where I am and who I am.
Yeah.
Doing what I do.
Yeah, I think we could probably trade stories back and forth along that line.
What is it with these ladies? They're just so good for us. It's good medicine.
It's good. Just work, and it's the marrying up that I quite enjoy as well. I've definitely married up as well, and it's good. It's really good. And
they have to be smarter than us. They have to definitely be better looking than us.
I should just mark the part of the podcast here, and I'll just play this for my wife. I go, this is the only bit of the podcast you need to listen to.
That's it. Yeah.
This. Yeah. I'm so incredibly thankful and grateful that I have a wife that has never thought it was a good idea to make me do stuff like everybody else. That even when I try really hard and go, well, I could do this, I could do that. So like after my strokes, I went back to uni and I did a neuroscience degree because I like challenge.
Oh, wow.
Wow. It's broken. I'll figure out how to fix it. Right. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll find out. I'll get it done. And through that, I went through, I was getting high distinctions all the time. I was doing really well. I got awards. And because of that culture, straight away, everyone says, hey, you should do medicine, man. You should do the test and go and be a doctor. And I looked at it and I've gone, man, that would be soul destroying, but look at the bank balance. And by that stage, I'd been out of work for quite a few years and go, oh, I'd be helping people and be doing this and that and other. But that kind of practice, that what they're asking of me is just not me. And so my wife kept on pushing me towards, well, keep on searching for opportunities like this, go down this path. And then even in the last couple of years with, I got back into work for a little while. I was working as a high school science and psychology teacher. And then this medical condition that I had put me in hospital 4 times in 6 months. So to reduce the stress on me, we said, all right, let's not push it any further. And so there's been lots of opportunities where I could have just gone and got a job, just, punch the card, do that kind of stuff. And
there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm all,
nothing
all
wrong with
for
that.
it. If that's you, no judgment. It's just something from a very young age. And I'm like, I can't do that. Yeah. It's just not me.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
And so quite joyfully, my wife keeps on going, well, don't then. Like, you'll find it. Just keep going. Yeah. And the beauty of that, just keep going. It goes going back to how the similarities with powerlifting. I always wanted to bench press 400 kilos in competition. I never quite got there, but it was a beautiful journey trying to get there, and so much richness and learned it along the way. I may never, ever get to where I want to be, my goal for the business and what I want to achieve. But if I keep on doing this every day, have conversations like the one we're having tonight, then life over the next 10 to 20 years is going to be kind of fun regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's about having purpose. It's about setting a goal that serves that purpose. And then I'm also a very big believer that my goals should not be selfish. Of course, I want to live better. I want to be better. But if I can do that while also giving back, I don't want it to sound all, like a hippie or something from the 60s or something. But truly, to do things in service of others is so rewarding. So even if you're an egoist, still give to people, help people, because you do feel good. It does add to your purpose and your sense of self. I believe in being as strong as I can be, not only so that I can help myself, but so that I can also be in the best condition and position from which I can help my family, my friends, and anybody else who I come into contact with. If you can do that, it's quite the fulfilling life.
Oh, yeah. 100% agree with you on that one. As you were saying that about giving for others and being strong in service of others, I just realized what shirt I'm wearing today.
I see that.
Yeah, there you go.
That is number 34, Chicago Bears. Walter Payton is probably, because I played American football as a kid. I was pretty good, actually. And Walter Payton was my number one American football hero.
Really?
So I noticed that on your jersey right away.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. I totally forgot that I was wearing it until you started basically describing the character of Walter Payton.
Yeah. It's fate, my friend.
There you go. Oh, wow. I think mostly I don't listen back over podcasts. I'll do like maybe a little bit if there was something really cool I wanted to listen to again. I'm definitely going to listen to this podcast again because this is awesome, man. This is really cool. I want to ask you about Prince. Where did you see Prince?
Okay. I saw him at Oslo Spectrum. And this was the same year. I'm sure you heard about the terror action here in Norway, where all those students were killed. It was shortly after that, and everybody was thinking that concert was going to be. He was going to do 2 days at the Oslo Spectrum. It's a big arena here in Norway, and everybody thought that concert was going to be canceled. Because everything was pretty much shut down. People were scared. People were in mourning. Nothing like that had ever happened in Norway. But the concert stayed on. He came out and he did the first show. And my wife and I, we were living up north at that time. So we flew down to Oslo, spent the night in Oslo, and then the next day was the concert. And we had open floor tickets. And I said to my wife, I says, we're a sporty couple. We're fit. Let's just kind of buffalo. Let's scrum our way to the front when they open the doors. And she's like, yeah, I'm with you. My wife, she's just a tiny little thing, but she's tough as heck. So when they opened the doors from the side of the Spectrum, it was surprisingly easy to get in, and we just planted ourselves right along the guardrail, slightly right of center stage, but right there. I mean, he was what my camera is about 2 feet away from me. Yeah, I'd say he was about 2.5, 3 feet away was the edge of the stage.
Oh, man.
Now, let's back up. I've been a Prince fan since the beginning. I'm 56 years old. When Prince started with his first album in 1978, see, a lot of people, these younger people think, oh, Prince started around Purple Rain. And when was that? 1980 something. But no, he started in 1978. And I was hip to that first album at that time. I was 8 or 9 years old. So I've been a fan of his all along. And this was the first time I actually had the time and opportunity to see him. So I was going to enjoy this. So to be there, pretty much center stage, right at the very front. And I think he performed for at least a couple hours. It was a long show. And it was just, and again, I'm a musician. Mm-hmm. So I'm not just enjoying a concert. I'm studying the nuance. I'm listening to his solos and things like that, and just drinking in all of that experience, both for the entertainment, but also for the learning experience. And I'll never forget it. I think a lot of people are not aware of how good a musician Prince was. Yeah. People hear about it, but unless you see, and that comes forth on his albums, but it's something totally different if you see it live. Now, I've seen tons of live videos, but to actually be there. He had this one part where he had his guitar, but he was in front of his keyboard. So he's playing his guitar one-handed on the neck and doing a keyboard solo with it. It's like, is this real? Is this even, is this even happening? Yeah. And I think one of the coolest things besides the musical experience was I actually had a personal interaction with Prince. Like I said, we were center stage right at the front. And I don't remember what song he was performing, but he's singing and, you know, dancing and bebopping. And he came to the edge of the stage right in front of us. And he's kind of looking at the crowd while he's singing and pointing here and there. And then there was a break where it was just instrumental and he wasn't singing, but he was standing there at the edge of the stage, you know, getting people to clap their hands. And he looked down and he looked at my wife and then he looked at me and gave one of those.
Oh.
And I'm like, I know she's fine, but thank you, Prince. I know. So that was a very cool little personal interaction with Prince. And I tell people jokingly also, but maybe it's partially true. I tell people we were so close that Prince sweat on my wife and I've never loved her more than I did in that moment.
Oh man.
So I'm a diehard Prince fan. That he is absolutely, without a doubt, my number one inspiration within music. I don't know how much of that comes out in my solo music, but he's definitely there. Everything from his keyboard playing to bass to guitar to his writing style is definitely an inspiration to me when I'm recording and composing my own music.
Begs the question though, how does an 8-year-old kid in a fairly small town, Ohio, find Prince?
Interesting story. We had a neighbor. Again, this was very rural Ohio. There was a cornfield across the road from us, but further down the road, maybe a half mile down the road, was this friend of my sister. She was in my sister's class. Cindy Coe is her name. I'm friends with her on Facebook. Maybe she'll see this. So a shout out to Cindy Coe. She had an older sister who was a couple, 3 years older, who had other friends who heard about this band. Everyone thought it was a band. They didn't know that it was just one guy.
Right. Okay.
But remember, because he played everything himself. So nobody really got the concept of one person doing all of this. So she had heard of this band called Prince, and she had it on a little cassette tape. And she said, "You need to listen to this. You'll probably like this." And she gave me that little cassette tape, and I listened to it, and I was just blown away by that first album in 1978. It was just by chance. Just a girl down the road had an older sister who was into it, and for whatever reason, she said that I would probably like it.
Wow.
You should listen.
And she was right.
Yeah, I think she was right. I've been a fan ever since.
Man, okay.
And again, he's highly inspirational to me as a composer, as a musician. So on my music, I also play everything. And again, I don't know that people can listen to my music and say, "Oh yeah, there's Prince in there," but he's in there. I don't know that it's obvious to people, but that inspiration is there.
So you started with Prince. Talk us through some of your other major sort of musical inspirations that spun out of Prince.
We grew up. Yeah. I was growing up in that little town called Norton, which was 99.99999% white American. So what was being heard around me, which I also heard and liked, was what we would call today classic rock. Aerosmith, Journey. 1978 was Van Halen's first album, so I heard that as well. Yeah. And also a lot of country music, which I didn't really get into at that time. But interestingly enough, about 5-6 years ago, I did write a country album for a friend of mine. Yeah, but so a lot of country as well. But being Black American, in my home was, from my mother, a lot of gospel, a lot of classic soul and R&B.
Okay, yeah.
From that time. And then my father was listening to things like Neil Young and the Rolling Stones.
Oh, gosh.
So I had this combination of 60s and 70s, both rock, soul, and R&B, plus gospel, plus contemporary rock of the time, which we now call classic rock. Yep. So I had all of this stuff that I loved. I would say the music at that time that made the biggest impression on me was that first Prince album. So Prince, but before that, Stevie Wonder. I had an
which album in
auntie,
particular?
my father. Excuse me.
Which album? For
Oh wow,
all of them.
It was several. It was several because my father's sister, my auntie Becky, was a Stevie Wonder fan, and I would be at her house, headphones, afro, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, listening to Stevie Wonder, Music of My Mind, Fulfilling This First Finale, Talking Book, Songs in the Key of Life. You know, that those years where he had 4 or 5, just boom, 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 from like 72 up to 76. Those albums, I can recite every song on there, lyric for lyric, because it was literally hours just playing that stuff over and over. So Stevie Wonder is probably my first big music influence. And then after that,
I use
Neil Young.
I'll tell you, Stevie Wonder, I use Songs in the Key of Life, that or Rumors. If I'm stuck on something and I just need a bump, I'll play the album straight through. And it always afterwards, it gives me a bump and
Songs in the Key of Life
is
definitely in my top 5 albums. Definitely.
Yeah. I just,
so it was that influence with Stevie Wonder and then Neil Young, because with my father being a Neil Young fan, he would play off of the album After the Gold Rush, and he would play the song After the Gold Rush with that French horn. And I remember hearing that and just being so curious because it was such an odd sound. What contemporary music has a French horn on it? So I remember, again, with the headphones, listening to that album over and over. And from there, and ever since then, Neil Young, huge influence on me as a musician. I actually got to work on an album project with one of Neil Young's producers, Elliot Mazer.
Oh, wow.
May he rest in peace. He's passed away now, but Elliot Mazer produced Neil Young's Harvest album.
Oh,
and we paid for him to come to Norway. That country album that I wrote, we actually pitched that album to Elliot Mazer. And based on that, Elliot came here and we recorded 4 songs with Elliot Mazer.
Oh, dude, that's amazing. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. So that was the opportunity. That was, when opportunity comes knocking, you have to be ready. Elliot Mazer, and I've known who Elliot Mazer is since I was a kid from reading the liner notes on those old Neil Young albums. Harvest, produced by Elliot Mazer.
Yeah, wow.
And just think, all of these years later, I got to work with. That was in 2015, 2016, if I remember right. Yeah.
So how was that? Just broadly, how was that experience of somebody who was almost fictional becoming very real to you?
It was quite surreal. It's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, music experience I've ever had. That experience of working in the studio with Elliot Mazer. At one point, we worked at 2 different studios, and one of the studios was is a 2.5 hour drive away from where we live now. And I got to ride with Elliot. One day he had to quit a session a little bit early before the rest of the musicians were done, and he wanted to leave. So I'll drive you. And I got a one-on-one alone, 2.5. Well, actually it was longer than that because it was a blizzard. I bet we were in the car for about 3.5 hours, just me and Elliot Mazer talking about music, for God's sakes.
Wow.
Can you believe it? I mean, I still can't believe that. Just talking about music, and to listen to this guy actually give me feedback on my lyrics that I provided for for those songs that we were working on. It was quite the confidence booster. I'll take that experience around with me for the rest of my life. It was very, very inspirational. But then there's another side of it where they always say, you never want to meet your heroes.
I keep hearing that, but I've met a lot of my heroes, and I haven't been disappointed yet.
Well, I won't say that I'm disappointed, because Elliot Mazer, he was quite famous, of course, but he was still just a human. Now, while he was very kind to me and very giving and full of feedback to me, he was extremely short and harsh with some of the people around me. And it was just like, okay, is this that Hollywood attitude thing that's coming out? I don't know what that situation was all about, but I have to be honest and say that I felt a little bit of disappointment that he was so harsh with most of the other people around in that situation. He was nothing but kind to me. And I appreciate that. And I'll take that with me for the rest of my life. But he was a tough guy. He was very tough.
I got a question about feedback then for you, like very specifically.
Yes.
I'm guessing genius producer, he's very good at giving feedback. How did he give you feedback? How does it differ from the way most people would give it?
I guess it differed in that he was the source that he was. Right. When my wife tells me, "Oh, that's a nice song, sweetheart," sing it again. I love that. That's nice. But I was there when our children were babies and she was singing bedtime songs to them. And it's like, she doesn't know much about music. So I have to consider the source.
That's fair.
So to get straightforward feedback from, I remember once, now, like I said, Elliot was very harsh with the people around, and actually it was quite hurtful because these people were my friends. They're grown men and they can handle themselves, but it hurt me to see them being, kind of mistreated by Elliot. So we were in the studio and we were recording one of the songs that I had written, but the band wasn't really getting it. They weren't satisfied with their recording. Elliot wasn't satisfied either. Now, I had like a demo of just the chords on my phone that the main guy in the band had sent me, but I hadn't written anything to it yet. So when we had a break, I actually sat there in the control room in the studio and wrote all of the lyrics for that song. Okay. After the break, they started to tackle that song, and Elliot was sitting there reading the lyrics, and the lyrics were kind of about how Elliot was being a little bit of a prick, but how my friends were kind of standing on their, standing solid on their feet and holding on to who they are as musicians and not giving up. There's a lot of paraphrasing here, and you would have to hear the song to know exactly what I'm talking about. But that was the gist of those lyrics. And Elliot looked at me, and I at that point I didn't care if he got pissed. I was basically writing about him being an asshole, and my friends being stalwart, strong types who are standing on who they are. Elliot turned and he looked at me. He said, "John, did you just write this during the break?" I said, "Yes, Elliot, I did." He said, "Man," he said, "this is beautiful, excellent, and well done." So to get that kind of feedback from somebody of that caliber, asshole that he was to everybody, he's still Elliot Mazer with, at that time, 50, 60 years of music experience. To get that kind of feedback, I can't beat that. Yeah. Besides Prince sweating on my wife, that's probably the best music experience I've ever had.
Yeah. Meeting a hero story and getting praise from them was meeting Ed Cohen and him telling me he liked I asked for feedback on my bench press, and he said, "Why would you change anything?" And I'm like, "Okay, thank you very much."
Ed is something, the way he gives those compliments in such a straightforward, because if you suck, he'll tell you, but he'll be very kind and instructive about it. And when he gives you a genuine compliment, that is exactly what it is. It's genuine, and it's coming from who many consider to be the greatest of all time. So you get a compliment from Ed Cohen, take that with you.
I've dined out on that ever since. Don't you worry. And it was also really, for me at that time, I was the seminar that he came out to teach was at a gym that most of the members thought I was the worst person in the world, and I didn't know what I was talking about and all this sort of thing. And so we went along anyway. I think I'd met Ed once or twice before at the Arnold, so I wanted to learn from him. And yeah, he gave me asked for feedback on my squat, and he changed a couple of things with hand position and what I was doing with my back. And I'm like, cool, thank you very much. And then asked about bench, and he just goes, don't change anything. Why would you change a thing? And so that one, I literally, I'm gonna strut for the rest of the day now. And just, it was almost, and as he said it, I looked at everybody else and just going, okay, you guys hearing that?
Yeah,
you hear that?
Well, I tell you, a compliment from Ed means a lot, and I'm happy to say now when I met him, I was bodybuilding at that time, but he let me train with them. When the first time I squatted and deadlifted 600 pounds was with Ed through his training with him. And he always would tell me, you need to powerlift. Why don't you powerlift? And I just wasn't interested. It wasn't until 2015 that I started powerlifting. But he what a guy. People can say what they want about the controversy with between him and the IPF, but that doesn't erase him being a genuine guy. I'm sure, it can be said that he made his mistakes ethically, so to speak, back then with the IPF, but it doesn't erase the good guy that he is today.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when people ask me that, I tend to skip past it. I go, I don't think it is this. I don't think we'll ever get the full story, but it's definitely not the story that a lot of people have been misinformed with.
Yeah, and that's what.
And the fact that he doesn't defend himself against a lot of those stuff, I think really speaks to his character. That it's just an all-around good bloke.
Well, I think it speaks a lot. Yeah, I think it is a reflection of the core of his character. He's not going to be bothered by things that he either can't change or things that do not serve a positive result. So why get mired down in discussions about those things? And I'm not saying this in his defense or in his support, and I'm not saying it in the defense or support of the IPF. What I'm saying is that Ed Cohen has a character or is of a character that does not indulge in that kind of back and forth drama, because that's what it would be reduced to if he were to. So.
Yeah.
And I've only known him as the good guy who came up to me all those years ago and said, "Do you mind if I bench with you?" Like I said, that's how I met him.
Man, that's
and I'm forever thankful to his wife, because it's his wife who introduced me to my wife.
So Chicago bodybuilding in the 90s. Who were your influences?
Back then, I would say it was probably Vince Taylor.
Yeah, okay.
I was in 2 bodybuilding meets, one where he was a guest speaker and one where he was a guest poser. And both times I got to speak with him at length backstage, and he actually gave me a lot of pointers on my posing and encouragement and stuff like that. And I just fell in love with the guy's personality. So incredibly down to earth, excellent sense of humor, and he had time for everybody.
Yeah, right.
He gave me the impression that he is someone who wanted to give back. Bodybuilding had been good to him, and he wanted to give back. I always liked the aesthetics of Sean Ray.
Yeah, he's good.
I think that the one that made my jaw hit the floor was Nasir. Nasir Al-Sambateh. Yeah, I saw him. He came to Quad's gym for a seminar, and I have never in my life, before or since, seen anybody bigger than he was. This was well into off season, so he was just absolutely huge. So I was fascinated by his size, but I was also fascinated as to how unhealthy he was. He was breathing like he was about to die just from walking from the outdoors and coming in and sitting down. I remember he stayed seated the entire time. And the whole time he was just you could just see his chest just heaving up and down, trying to catch his breath for a good hour and a half. I've never seen anybody struggling physically like that in my life.
I've seen
it was very impressive how big he was.
I've seen another IFBB pro, not at NASA's level, just like national level, and Oh, well, this must have been like 2002 or three. Because I came into powerlifting via bodybuilding as well. I was a huge Dorian Yates fan. I love Dorian Yates. I had
I never got into Dorian. I was always mad at Dorian because he kept beating Kevin Levrone.
the Maryland Muscle Machine, Kevin Levrone.
Yep.
So yeah, I love Dorian. There was just something about this guy from Birmingham, like really working class.
Yeah.
I had Blood and Guts
Yeah.
on that blue VHS, and I used to wear that thing out. I couldn't get enough of the guy.
No, I was very, very anti-Dorian because I was so pro Kevin Levrone.
Because you had
but
Sean Ray,
I have
Levrone,
to respect
Flex Wheeler, all of those really aesthetic guys all kept on getting beaten by this monster.
Yeah, and I never understood that. I never agreed with those outcomes. However, I have to respect Dorian's work ethic. And I like what he's doing now, going on the seminar, discussion route and talking about, the ills and the goods of bodybuilding, and he's doing his part in giving back. I like what he's doing now. Got to respect that.
I like what he says nowadays about Flex Wheeler, that if Flex Wheeler had half of his work ethic, then Flex Wheeler wins every single time.
Yep. That is very well said. But I'm glad I got out of bodybuilding, and I can tell you why that happened. When I came to Norway, I was shocked. Now, I never was in professional bodybuilding in the USA. I was at national level NPC. I was winning state tournaments, in Illinois and things like that. NPC, amateur. And of course, the NPC is supposed to be clean, but people cheat. But it wasn't rampant at that time. I came to Norway, and there is no amateur bodybuilding. It's all on the professional level. And just about everybody, I don't want to offend everybody, but just about every bodybuilder in Norway, at least at that time, I don't know any bodybuilders now, but at that time, all of them were taking this, that, and the other, plus the recreational drugs like cocaine and amphetamines and stuff. And it was frightening.
Yeah, right.
That it was that kind of an environment. And then to me, it was also the ethical side of things, because it was technically supposed to be clean. So why are you guys cheating? So it was that combination. And I just said, I'm just not gonna bodybuild here in Norway. Now, I did keep training bodybuilding and got in great shape, but I got into powerlifting. I guess I finally started listening to Ed and his wife. But I also missed that competition element. And I started to see that I was getting so strong. And when I started powerlifting, I was 46. But I made the decision then, I'm going to get the all-time raw squat record. I don't care how old I am when I do it. So that's when I was 46. And when I was 50, I got that all-time raw squat record.
What was that record?
Mission accomplished. At that time, it was the record was 335. I squatted 335.5 at a regional competition. Now, before that, I squatted 347.5 in a competition, but it was just a local club competition, so it didn't count. So I got it. I chipped it. I chipped the record.
Who had the record before you?
Now,
who had the record before you?
Martin Rønning.
Oh,
just
I remember
big
him.
Beast.
I remember him.
Yeah, big beast monster of a guy. He weighed like 176 kilos. He's a foot taller than me and 2 feet wider. And I just remember thinking, this guy is this big. He was at that time like 24, I think. I was 46. I'm like, but I'm going to get that guy. I'm going to get him. And I just, was nose to the grindstone, do the work and get it done. Now some 24-year-old
attitude, right? Because that's the same story of David Ricks. It's
I think so.
54. I'm going to take that all-time record.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and now, I think I can't remember his name. He's around 24, 23 years old. Some kid squatted 400.5 here last year. So that's the new all-time record. But we'll see.
Those,
Yeah.
I remember we had a few years in a row here in Australia where we had so many 400 kilo squatters coming out and breaking records. It
Oh, yeah.
started with Blaine Sumner came out in 2012, and we had a great time, me and him and a couple other guys scaring all of Melbourne. So he squatted 400 that day. And then we had Ray Williams came out in his third meet ever,
Yeah.
squatted 415. I remember the day beforehand, Brad Gillingham was over for the comp as well. And I said, hey, Brad, have you met this guy yet? And he goes, I've never met him either, Nathan. Let's go chat to him. And so we're talking, and just the humility in which he tells his story about, my first meet, I did this and then did this. And I looked at Brad, I go, mate, did you ever do that in a suit? And he looks at me and goes, nope, didn't come close. No. And I'm going,
yeah. Isn't it interesting how right out of the gate, you knew that Ray Williams was going to do great things because he was at a starting point that people usually get at the end of their career in powerlifting.
It was insane watching this guy go, and the mistakes that he made on the platform on the day they really were the mistakes you make in your second, third, and fourth powerlifting meets.
Yeah.
So the advice that me and a few other people who were helping out were giving him was the same advice that we're giving to young people in local meets.
Yeah.
And it was, but this guy squatting 415.
Well, what a guy. He has really grown into an excellent ambassador for our sport. I love Ray Williams. I got to hang out with him here in Norway. I can't remember what year. I want to say it was maybe 2016. Mm-hmm. He was on his way back from some international meet, and his plane was delayed, so he had to pretty much spend the whole night at the airport here in Norway. And he put something about that up on social media. And at that time, I've kind of skipped over a lot of my career with working for myself and other different positions I had. But I had for a while, I was working in the National Immigration Police here in Norway. And our office was at Gardermoen at the airport there. So I'm at work and I saw Ray Williams on Facebook saying he's at and I talked to the boss. I said, I'm taking a break and it's going to be about 2 hours. And I got to hang out with Ray Williams and just keep him company and talk about powerlifting and stuff for a couple hours while he was at the airport there.
That is awesome. Yeah.
What a guy. What a guy.
And then the third.
I love that guy. He's so positive.
The third guy in that trio that we used to have in Australia, like squatting 400 plus, was Jesse Uwapa from Nauru.
Yeah.
And it was lifting alongside those guys in that era, just like really kept me in my place.
Well, what's Jezza doing these days? Is he...
Jezza, I haven't spoken to Jezza for quite a long time. He left a message on my Facebook the other day, but I did speak to Bronco, and Bronco said he's lost a lot of weight. I think he might be boxing. So I think he's kind of returned to the size that he was pre-powerlifting, which is about 100, 110 kilos, which on a guy that's like 4'2", it still makes him massive.
Unbelievable. He lost that much weight?
Like he was a machine. When he put on weight, like we did the Commonwealth Championships together in, like we did back-to-back years, like 2012, 2013, and he put on a lot of weight between those two meets, and I've just gone, dude, what are you doing? And he kind of changed positions with his job where he could just eat all the time. And the dude had a full rice cooker of rice, and he'd just shovel it down over the course of half an hour. Yeah. He could handle volumes of food. Like, it was incredible.
I don't know how you can do it.
There was a pile of Domino's pizzas that he had delivered to the meat venue, and they were just for him.
He was,
he could eat. He could really
huge.
eat. But I think he's cut right
That's
down.
Very interesting that
and doing some
it's
boxing.
very interesting that he lost so much weight. Very interesting.
Well, you had Carl Jungvar Christensen from great Norwegian champion. He lost 60 kilos or something like that when he stopped lifting. He's
unrecognizable. Yeah, he got really slimmed down. Yeah.
So these days I'm at about 116 kilos. I used to run around at 170, so that's 60 kilo drop.
I'm down to 127. Nice. I want to get down to 120. At my heaviest, at my last competition in 2019, I think I was 152.
Yeah, right.
which is just, I'm not the tallest thing. So that is way too much weight for me to be carrying. I think I can actually squat more than I was before at this lower weight.
Right.
That's what it feels like so far in training.
I can definitely deadlift a lot better than I ever did when I was actively competing. Just at it being there's nothing to get in the way anymore. You don't have that big thing around the middle.
I don't know what my problem is. I think I have the wrong body mechanics. Deadlift has always been a struggle to me, and squat has always been my thing.
Yeah, I could squat and I could bench. They both came very natural. The squat, I was a rugby player. I played in the front row. So which being a prop is basically being good at squatting and holding yourself in a bench press position. So I had so many reps of powerlifting before I started powerlifting. And what else? And when I played baseball, I started off as a catcher. So squatting was second nature.
Yeah.
And all the pictures as well. I remember seeing pictures of Ed squatting in Flex magazine through the 90s. And so anytime somebody wanted to show how strong someone was, rather than, because the bodybuilding way was to put fake plates on an incline bench press.
Yeah.
But you couldn't fake a massive squat by a powerlifter. So if you saw Casimir or Cohen or any of those guys, or Odie Wilson or someone like that, they had a bar on their back and the bar was just bent. You're like, oh, so strong people squat.
That's and that's the beauty of powerlifting. Like you said earlier, it is what it is. The bar is the bar. The weight is the weight. I remember I go back and I think about those times of training with Ed, or even just being in the gym while he was training, and it was just such a beautiful and poetic thing to watch. And what a privilege to say I was there. I was there with him. I was in the crew while he was doing some of that stuff, and just the mental focus that he had, in the couple of minutes leading up to a heavy squat in training, the look on his face, and you can feel the electricity in the air, and there's nothing performative about it. It's genuine focus. I've never seen anyone focus in preparation the way he has. I've never seen that before. Haven't seen it since.
Can you try to describe it? What does it feel like being in the room when he's getting ready for a big squat?
I was always impressed with how everyone at Quads respected Ed's training. Now, notice what I said. Of course, they respected Ed, but I'm saying they respected his training. Now, what does that mean? Ed always had and he stuck to this like a religion, squatting on Sunday, Tuesday off, then bench on Tuesday, so he had his set days and always at the set time. I want to say he would always be in there by 10 o'clock was when he and his crew would start. And it was never, you see the old films of Kirk Kowalski talking about how if someone is at his squat rack, he's going to throw the bar in their face. And whatever. And all respect go to Kirk. But Ed wasn't like that because he didn't have to be. People knew that on this day at this time, Ed is coming in with his crew and he's going to squat. And everyone just kind of worked around that. However, and I'm a case in point. Like I said, the first time I met Ed, he was supposed to bench, but I didn't know that. I think this was literally my first day at Quad's Gym, and he came up and asked me, "Is it okay if we?" So at the same time as everyone, you hear the term so and so commands their respect. Ed never commanded that respect. It was just given because of his personality and his performance, and I always admired that. That speaks to Ed Cohen's down-to-earth nature. There's nothing performative about him. His lifting speaks for itself. His training speaks for itself. He speaks for himself. And therein, respect is given. So I would see people, you would hear people, yeah, I mean, I got to hurry up and get done because Ed's coming in a while. And it was not out of fear. It wasn't out of worry that you're going to get yelled at. It was out of respect. And I found that so inspiring and very endearing. It made me love Ed Cohen. It made me love being able to call him a friend, because that's what people thought of him. Do you know what I mean? So more than the crazy lifting that he did, more than the intense training, more than what he does as a symbolic figure within powerlifting, it was Ed Cohen himself, his personality, and the way that influenced that entire atmosphere around him, specifically at Quad's Gym. That is what impresses me the most about Ed. I love the guy. This is making me miss him because I haven't spoken to him in a few years, actually. I see his wife every year when she comes back to Norway. You know, we, up until COVID hit, she and I would train together all summer over here in Norway. But I haven't spoken to him in quite some time. So this is making me miss him. It's reminding me of why I love that guy. Yeah.
He's
a good man.
I'm loving listening to
He's
it.
a good man. Yeah. So to me, so to answer very clearly, to me, Ed's personality, Ed's humanity was more impressive, even more so than his lifting. And that says a lot because we all know what his lifting was.
I think that speaks to what strength really means. I think I've been saying for years, there's a lot of really weak people that can lift heavy things, but strong people are something different.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so fortunate to know so many beautiful people from powerlifting. I just love the powerlifting community. I love it.
So going back to that performative or the non-performative aspect of it in the gym, what's your take now on, like you got to see a lot of people getting psyched up or not getting psyched up, all the ranges of it. I've got strong opinions on what people do these days. I'd love to hear yours, though, having seen possibly the greatest focus of all time.
Well, let me go back to, I've had a lifetime as an athlete. Like I told you earlier, I was very, very good at football.
What was your position in football?
American football. I was a running back, tailback.
Yep.
So I was the lean, muscular, short, very quick guy.
Yeah, just to place myself in that story, I'd be the guy with no neck from Iowa looking out for you.
Oh, I had no neck also. I had no neck also. No, I'm a very ritualistic preparer for any athletic exertion. And this goes back to my time in high school playing football. Game day was always on Friday. And what I would do Friday after school, I would stay at school. I would walk down the campus road and go into the locker room and just lay on the bench in front of my locker and take a nap for about an hour. I would get up, and I think like the year before, my last year in high school, they built a McDonald's right in front of the high school. Pretty smart, actually. They got a lot of business. I would get up after my nap. I would walk to the McDonald's. I would buy 2 Big Macs. I would take them back, and I would sit on the hillside at the side of the school, eat those Big Macs, and then lay back in the grass, weather permitting, and take another nap for about an hour or so. And then by that time, other players on the team had started to kind of stream in, and then I would go down to the locker room and join them. I would get dressed, get all my equipment on, and then we would always march as a team to the field and begin the warming up process, stretching and all of that stuff. And then everybody would split up into, the linemen would go over here and do their drills, the receivers do their drills. And I always, at that point, I would separate myself. Now, again, this is, so far, it's been very isolated. I've been very closed off. And I would separate myself again, and I would just walk up and down the field very slowly, visualizing myself getting the ball, running through the hole in the line and running, and just visualizing that over and over. And then the game would start and I would execute. Okay. So fast forward that to powerlifting. And by that time, of course, I've had all those years of experience with Ed, and it really hit me the way he would prepare. Very isolated, not in a physical sense, but meant you could see in his head, he was alone. He was visualizing the lift. And I just started doing that. Just started visualizing the lift and picturing it over and over. It's like I'm a film producer and I'm directing and producing this film of me approaching the bar. You know, my approach to the bar was always the same because I had run that film in my head 1,001 times before that. So that stoicism, that seclusion, mental seclusion that Ed had, and the physical seclusion that I used to have as a football player, I compacted all of that into my way of preparing, both in training but also for a meet. Now, that's the way I do it. I'm very quiet. I don't want my coach or my handler yelling in my ear and smacking me on the back of the head and all that stuff, because that will pull me out of my reverie, out of my film composition of me completing that lift. So I always have told whoever's handling me, I don't mind that you talk to me. I want you to talk, but you're not the main character in this film. So be in the background, and I just want to hear you. You know, come on, John, you got, talk calmly. And that has always worked for me. And all of my coaches at a meet, or all of my handlers at a meet, have always respected that. But having said that, I see how some lifters go the opposite way, and they're maniacs. And they'll come up to squat and they'll bang their chest or sometimes their head on the bar. Or before they bench, they'll have this routine. There's a lot of shouting, and that's very inspiring to watch. And I can appreciate that, but it's just not my way. I'm a very cerebral, calm, routined lifter, both in training and at a competition.
I was talking to Peter Day, who's a masters powerlifter from Australia, incredibly successful, this lady, marvelous. And we were talking about we're just at masters and juniors nats before I came to Norway. And she asked me what I thought about all the backslapping and guys revving themselves up. And I go, when I watch 74 kilo men do that, or 83 kilo men, or even, and especially the juniors doing it, all I'm seeing is me and my friends when we're 9 years old in the backyard, and I'm going, I'm Rowdy Roddy Piper, and I'm going to drop, it's like, it looks like a pantomime. Come on, guys, focus. It's time to focus.
Yeah. I think that, and I remember Ed said something about this all those years ago, not criticizing, but just pointing out why he does it the way he does. He pointed out how, should it not be questioned whether that is something of a drain, both mentally and physically, when you're hyped up and you're yelling and you're shaking the bar and banging your chest? Isn't that kind of taking away from the effort you should be putting into the lift itself? And I tend to agree with that. However, if you get an adrenaline rush from all the back slapping and all that stuff, then have at it. But it's just not for me.
Yeah, I definitely like prefer the Ed Cohen approach. I would literally walk out at benchmates, sit down on the bench, and I had for the first half of my career, I had a prayer word that I would say. I'd breathe in and say Maranatha, which means Jesus come quickly, which I think is timely with 300 plus kilos hanging over your face. So,
absolutely.
Come quickly. Right.
Take all the help he has to offer.
I'm going to take it. And then for the second half, I'd listen to Triple H from the WWE and what he was doing as his focusing routine. And he would sit in the gorilla chair before he went through the curtain, and he'd say, "Hey, you've been here before. You know what you're doing. Enjoy the ride." And so that's what I put on all my stuff now. You've been here before. You know what you're doing. And it works even in situations I've never been there before. Because you go, well, I've been in situations like this, like a year ago, I almost died again. And so it quickly defaulted back to, you've been here before. It's okay. You've been here before. You know what you're doing.
Let me ask you something about the strokes that you've had. Are you in a situation where you're constantly worried about that, or are you just living life and come what may?
If you had have asked me that a month ago, I would tell you that I'm still worried. all the time, getting less and less worried. So my strokes came at the end of 2016, and they were in response to I'd been in chronic heart failure for quite some time without realizing it. I went to 2 world championships like that, benched 750 pounds in heart failure. I just thought I was unfit, and that's why I was breathing heavy and retaining water.
Yeah.
And eventually the strokes came through one night, and then the heart condition that caused it in the first place, we just could never quite get on top of. So I was then in the, after the strokes in the last 8 years, been defibrillated 18 times. Yeah. Wow. So and more than anything, that's tiring, because they put like a few hundred joules through my body. And I'm like, heart stops for a couple of seconds, and then, boom, starts beating a rhythm. All good. They send me home. But I'm tired for a week and a half after that. I'm just wrecked.
Yeah.
And so I had this constant just dragging through, and developed PTSD in response to it. My former career in counseling, and then it was just built up over time, which I think is most PTSD. Is just one drop. Which drop actually made the overflow?
Yeah,
one of those situations. And so I just found myself incredibly anxious all the time about what my heart was doing, and I was always going, what's the heartbeat right now? I wonder. And then I'd be taking my pulse, and it was just always on, and that pesky little hypervigilance. But this side of Norway, Norway was quite a fun trip for me. It was
good.
I had the usual depression and anxiety about getting on board the plane. And I think it was just because I've been through it. It was just one more rep of unhooking from my feelings in that situation, going, okay, so I feel this way. This is the sensations in my body. Oh, I'm noticing, I'm telling that I can't do it story again. And I'm noticing that there's a lot of fear here. Okay, I can sit with that. I can read my book through that. And so I think I just did one more rep, and now where I'm at a month later is I'm not really that concerned anymore. I'm just going to do it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. When you had, if we go back to the first stroke you had, was it such that, because I've heard some people give accounts of what it feels like to experience that. And some of them say that they don't know what it felt like before or during, but afterwards, it's almost like they come back to consciousness, to the here and now, and then they feel and observe whatever. But some people say they felt something coming, and then they felt something happen, and then they felt something during the whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't.
And felt something afterwards. Which one is
those ones where you feel something happening tend to be from hemorrhage strokes. So when a blood vessel bursts, and so there's other receptors that can alert you to there's a physical sensation going on. My strokes, they're all basically simultaneous. Were 5 clots implanting themselves. I literally woke up out of bed, got out of bed, and just felt odd. And I said to my wife, something's not right. The way she tells the story is that I said it, there's something not right. And so I could hear myself and go, that's not my voice. That's not what's going on. When my wife did the FAST test, which is, the signs of stroke, in my head to this day, I believe I put 2 arms up, that when I smiled, my face was even. In my head, everything was as normal. And she goes, no, you put your right hand up, your left arm didn't move. You tried to pull your face up, one eyebrow came up, the other one stayed still. She said one half of my body just melted like a wax candle.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it probably...
I don't have a lot of fears when it comes to my health, but I hope that my way out of this life is not being paralyzed due to a stroke. I try to imagine what that would be like. And that's how my father-in-law went. He had a series of strokes which left him paralyzed on the left side. And I to not be able to get about would be it. Yeah, you see, I'm struggling to put it into words because the concept of that is just
Yeah.
Well, God bless you. I'm glad you're on
me
your
too.
feet.
Me
And
too.
I'm glad you're on your feet and going at it.
I'll give you the precursor to a guest that we'll have on very, very soon. The winner of the 120 plus class, Farrah James Key, big fella from the US, also a stroke survivor. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So we had an amazing chat. Just really like it had to be brief. We both were going different directions, but he asked me a couple of questions and I said, I don't lift anymore. I got a brain injury. And then he leant in, he goes, tell me more. And it was the first time I noticed that he's got a scar on the side of his head. And I know what that scar's from. It means you've had a certain type of stroke. And he goes, yeah, I've had two. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Interesting.
Okay. This is something special. So
how old
he's
is
young,
he?
man. He can't be much more than 32, 33, somewhere around there. Yeah. Very young.
He's a person I would love to, I had a very short verbal exchange with him twice. And that's it. I've never, interesting. Interesting.
There was
so
a
young.
lot of phrases that both he and I used, and we said the same thing. You go, man, you're the first person I've ever heard say that other than me. And we're like, so there is I think there's a lot you can learn from strokes and from having a stroke. Like 8 years down the track, it's still awkward to say. It's possibly the best thing that's ever happened to me. Didn't feel like that for most of the time.
Because it gave you a new awareness, maybe.
So initially, working with a psychologist, she said, whatever problems you had before the stroke, a stroke will tend to make them worse. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's how COVID felt. I went in a certain way and came out much worse. But I thought, well, if that's true, and I think it is, then whatever was good about me before the stroke is going to be better. And whatever my strengths were, and this is kind of what the message is these days, whatever my strengths were, that's what kept me alive. And so whatever was best about me is what kept me going and what kept me on my feet and kept my heart beating. So if a stroke will make whatever's bad worse, then surely a stroke will make whatever's good better. And so I started investigating that. And so I think my ability to share perspective, but also absorb perspective and take different perspectives has improved dramatically.
I love it.
My ability to be kind, not just to others, but also to myself has improved and has blossomed. I'm every bit as funnier. I'm slightly funnier than what I was before. I've always been hilarious. I'm even funnier now. I've always been outgoing. I'm even more so now. And so now I can start going, well, thank you, stroke, for that, because that was the catalyst for this change. But if you had have asked me that a couple of years ago.
Catalyst for change, and turning that catalyst into something that actually propels you forward. Same thing, it wasn't a stroke.
But same deal for you.
Thank God, but it was me turning my life around by coming here to Norway. That was the catalyst, the door opener to all of the positivity that came afterwards. So here you go now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. Where was this guy from? Oh, you'd probably know the town. Quincy, Illinois. This dude was from. Yeah.
Quincy,
He was a football coach down there, and he wouldn't travel a whole lot. So one year that I would fly into Chicago or do some work with a friend up there. He was in Elgin. And so I have a very different idea of what Chicago looks like to you, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And so we would drive from Elgin down to Columbus for the Arnolds. And this one year we decided we'd pick up our friend Dustin and bring him along because he just wouldn't travel anywhere. He was really, really Quincy through and through.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Quincy, it was Quincy, Illinois.
Quincy.
I'm like, dude.
There you go. You've got that accent.
Yeah. And I remember him asking me with all the travel, he said, but what if one of your flights is cancelled? I'll go, well, that happens. That's the thing. He goes, yeah, I heard that there's 33,000 flights through Chicago O'Hare get cancelled or redirected every year. And I've gone, yeah, it's probably about right. Busy airport. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
He goes, aren't you worried about that? And I've gone, not really, no. He goes, well, what do you do if someone cancels a flight? And I said, well, that's happened plenty. The first thing you do is you take a deep breath. And you smile at the person that's with you. You go, all right, cool. What now? And I think that attitude, while I haven't always been able to practice it the whole time, that's the attitude to a stroke. It's like, all right, take a breath, find an
Well,
ally
I
in the
think
room
when
and
we
smile.
get faced, well, yeah, because when we get faced with adversity, whether it's large like yours or smaller like me just having to move to a different country, when we're faced with that, it really is in our hands how we react to it. It doesn't have to be the end of everything. It can be a new beginning as well. And I don't want to say that very cavalier and glib, because I'm not saying that process of turning it into something that lifts you forward is easy, because it's not. But it doesn't have to be impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about that locus of control that we adopt. That we can either go, well, all these things are happening to me, bad things happening to me. That was out of control. Just going, you know what? Most of the world, most of the universe is all out of our control. We're not in control of much, but we can regulate ourselves. We can pay attention to what's happening now. We can take our time. We can make choices in those situations, and then deal with whatever chaos is going to happen next.
Well, one thing that I say at the end of all of my podcast episodes or during my radio broadcast, I always say that there's a lot of beauty out there in the world. Go out there, love and be loved, and enjoy the process. And sometimes we lose sight of that beauty because, there's a lot of chaos out there as well. There's a lot of ugliness, but I think there's more beauty out there. And I think I'm old enough to not be accused of being naive. I have enough life experience. Right. I have enough life experience to not be accused of being naive. So I think if everyone takes a moment to just kind of analyze the world around them, and I'm talking about people who live in a moderately well-off Western civilization.
Yep.
Okay, there's a caveat. But for us, if we take a look around us, I think we can come to the conclusion that there's more beauty than ugliness. There's more opportunity out there than lack of opportunity. And it's not easy to see. It's not.
No, it takes effort, doesn't it?
It's not, because ugly very often weighs a lot more than beauty.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's not easy.
Yeah, we all carry around with this evolutionarily adaptive thing called a negativity bias, that we're looking for it all the time. Yeah. That's what's going to keep us alive. But it's being able to see the beauty within that still that keeps us thriving rather than just alive.
Yeah. You have been doing this podcast for how long?
On and off for about a year. Mostly off.
I have to say, not that I'm any kind of guru or professor of podcasting, you do a great job at this.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
You, I find, because my podcast episodes tend to go long as well, I love to talk with people. And I find very often that people are actually uncomfortable with long form conversation, but it's just flowing naturally, and it seems effortless. So
thank you.
Well done.
It was my job for years was listening to people. I love it. I love talking about flow and the flow triggers and the physiology and neuroscience of flow.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm well aware that deep listening is one of the biggest flow triggers we have at our disposal. So for me, sitting down and listening to someone's story and just letting people speak is a great way to spend my day and to use my time. And so for me, this is quite restorative.
Well, I was just going to say, it's very giving when you actually sit and just talk with someone, but listen more than talk. Then it's very giving. You grow from that, and it's unbelievable what can be learned just by talking with somebody over a length of time.
I'll tell you a story about I'm actually from Sydney. I got to stop telling people I'm not really from the Northwest. I just want to be from the Northwest, because I think being from the desert, being from the Pilbara is a really cool thing, and I love that country. And it's really where I learned so much from my first couple of years there. I was mostly working in prisons and working with Indigenous communities, and learning to listen and understand to old Aboriginal men is an art, because their stories aren't linear. They never go in straight lines, and they rarely start at the beginning, and they rarely end during that discrete conversation. The conversation flows over the course of weeks or days, and they'll just give you a bit of the story at a time, and it's up for you to piece it back together.
Interesting.
And so watching the old guys and the way they listened and the way they did stuff was really cool. Just really cool.
That is so cool. Here's one thing that I've always wondered about Australia. And I think I have an ear for language and an ear for accents. But here's something that I was just wondering about. In Australia, taking away the Aboriginal people, are there variations in accent
100%.
in Australia? Can you give me some examples?
Queenslanders kind of talk slow, eh? Like they're just they're kind of like Canadians that have slowed right down, eh? And so that would be
And I hear it in your voice now when you do it. Yeah. Okay.
And the further west you go in Queensland, the more they slow down.
Okay.
There's a sort of New South Wales and Victoria, so Sydney and Melbourne. They're very quite clipped and a bit of that kind of northeast of the US. Just everything has to get through fast, and they're always kind of pissed off.
Okay.
Because you're holding them up and the weather's not good. So they're just kind of and then maybe my side of the country, people talk like me, leave long gaps in sentences. We've got a lot of time to get stuff done, like including speaking. So you can pick it.
See, and I wanted to ask that because I see online it's very popular to hate on Americans. And one thing that always comes up is people are saying now they hate the way Americans talk. And it's like, well, how can you say that? Because there are so many different, there's so many different accents, you know? There's a distinct difference between someone from Boston and someone from New Orleans, you know, or someone from Atlanta and someone from Des Moines, you know. There's drastic differences. So what is it that you don't like? Which one? Which
take
accent?
your pick.
But I just never thought of that in the concept of the Australian accent. But when you start talking, I definitely hear the difference. I guess if I would have had someone from the different regions of Australia and each person talk, then I would hear it. But just day to day and what I hear from people on TV or online in Australian, I have never really noticed.
I think
the differences.
The Australian media has a certain accent, and it's kind of like that neutral the neutral American accent as used by NBC. You know how like everyone on NBC they speak the same, and it's not anybody's accent. I think the Australian media has a similar accent. It used to be quite British, and they put a little British emphasis on it, and now it's become even more neutral. And so you'll never be able to pick where someone's from.
Yeah. Interesting. No, I'm a lover of language. I used to be fluent in Spanish. I used it all the time on my job back home. But then as I started to learn Norwegian, the Spanish went away. So it's like I don't have room in my head for more than two languages, English and
How was it learning Norwegian?
And before I learned Spanish, for me, it was very, very easy. Like I said, I have an ear for languages. I was able to converse with people within the first 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, okay. Do you think I've got a question on that one because you're a musician?
Yeah.
And to me, Norwegian sounds very musical. It's quite tonal. Do you think that helped?
Absolutely. If you are a musician, especially a musician who composes music, you have to have an ear for it. And having that ear for music correlates with having an ear for language, because music is just repeating notes. learning a language is just repeating, notes, sounds,
Mm.
words. And of course, you have to learn the grammar as well. But once grammar is basically a code or a mathematical thing, in this language, 5 plus 5 equals 10. But in that language, 10 equals, 3
Mm.
plus 2. It might be, but once you learn that code of grammar, to me, it's easy. I just put the sounds together. And there's so many different dialects in Norway. The dialect that I speak, actually, I speak a combination of 3 different dialects, but it's most heavily on the far northern dialect, which is much more sing-songy. The tone is up and down, and yeah. But what can be confusing for new people learning Norwegian is that some of the dialects are so drastically different. They actually have different
Oh, really?
words that mean the same thing. Yeah, like I could say, like around here, if they're going to ask, how are you? They would say, "Hvordan går det med deg?" So hear that tone and hear the words, "Hvordan går det med deg?" Or I'm sorry, "Hvordan går det med deg?" is what they would say here. Up north, "Du, hvordan går det med deg?"
Oh, that's totally different. Yeah.
Different tone and different words combined.
Yeah, right.
Hvordan går det med deg? Hvordan går det med deg?
Huh. That's interesting.
So it's quite the dynamic language, and I just think it's just a beautiful language, and I'm so proud that I speak it. I only speak English at home with my wife and kids, but when I'm out and about doing whatever I do out there, among others, I speak Norwegian.
I tried desperately to. I find it really hard to get my mouth around Norwegian sounds. I think I've given up. I think my tongue sits in the wrong position in my mouth to be able to do it, because I always like to be able to like when we're in Drummond, I wanted to be able to respond to people when they said something, which was really disappointing, having to do the Aussie tourist and go, "I'm sorry, English. I feel bad. Sorry."
Yeah. No, but I will say this. Here locally, they were very prepared. Everybody knew, just about everybody knew, because there was a lot of talk about it locally, both through the grapevine, but also in the news and newspapers and whatnot, that all of these people were here for this World Bench Press Championship. So it was kind of cool. There's a little store just right around the corner from where I live. And I had come home after one of the first days there, and I'm like, I'm a little hungry. I want a little snack. So I walked over to that corner store, and it was just filled up with, this was on a Sunday, because as you probably found out, everything shuts down on Sundays here, but that corner store is open on Sundays. So it was full of lifters from the meet. And it was very interesting to hear every one of them speak English. I think there was a couple of guys from Japan.
Oh, yeah.
That had to speak English with the cashier and everything. And so it was a very international town.
It was great fun. I had so many wonderful interactions with locals, including on Constitution Day. We went to it's like a pizza and bar almost directly opposite the hotel, and they made great margarita pizzas, really nice. So we're in there having a pizza and a beer, and the guy at the next table he turned to us and started talking in Norwegian. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm from Australia. And we got chatting, and we had a great chat. He explained Constitution Day to us and a whole bunch of stuff, and it was really fun. Yeah. On my last night, I went back because I was the last Australian to leave. I thought, I'll get one last pizza and I'll have a beer. So I walked out the front with my beer in hand, and it was the same guy from day one there with his family. And so we got to have another chat, and he was very hospitable and wanting to, and genuinely interested in what we thought of the town and how the week went. It was really cool.
Yeah, no, it was quite a thing of status to have this event here in our town. Everybody was very proud to have this, and it's a good town. I'm not a city kind of person myself. I grew up in Ohio, way out in the country, so I don't like living in the city. But if I have to live in a city, I'm glad it's this one. And if I have to live in this city, I'm glad I live where I live, because it's very isolated within the city. There's no through traffic or anything. And people are very friendly, but people are even more friendly up north. They'll stop you and ask you, "Yeah, I haven't seen you before. Who are you? Who do
Oh,
you know up
wow.
here?" Yeah, it's very cool,
Yeah.
very open like that up there.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's the north is, I didn't bother going up there or doing anything this time around because I was traveling by myself. That's a place that my wife desperately wants to go to. She wants to be up there in winter and
Yeah.
see the northern lights and find out if Anna and Elsa are real people and whether you can talk to snowmen or not. She's a primary school teacher. She teaches lower primary, so in her head it
I
still
love
could
it.
be real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely want to do that. And I know about half the team ended up going to Bergen and I'm going to mispronounce it, Flom. There we go. Flom.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every one of them just raved about it. Said it's the most beautiful place they've ever been.
Well, they need to go up to my place. It's very small up there. There's no roads. You have to take a ferry to get there. It's on an island in the middle of the ocean. But if they come up to my place, that is the most beautiful place in the world.
All right. Yeah. I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, I tell you, it's quite the adventure having lived here in Norway. I've been here for 23 years, like I said, as of today, 23 years, and it's still exciting to me. I'm still in awe of living here and having the experiences that I have.
So just looking at the time, we start to wrap it up, I think, but I'm really interested to hear a bit more about what you've got going on now, especially with the book and the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My podcast is called Coming Home with John Allen. Coming, COMIN'. Coming Home with John Allen. That podcast is available on all podcast platforms. So I encourage people to go and listen. It is a podcast where I'm talking with people who inspire me, people who motivate me, people who I think I can learn something from. That's the whole gist of my podcast. My guests are all from stand-up comedians, because I do stand-up comedy as well. Stand-up comedians to intellectuals, educators, powerlifters, athletes, and just regular people who are doing cool stuff. But I encourage people to go, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go there and listen. And sometimes I will delve into politics on my show, but it is not a political show. If I'm talking about politics, I'm talking about the social aspect of politics, or the effects on social aspects of society when I'm talking about politics, because to just talk about politics is ugly and boring. And I'm not ugly on my show, and I'm definitely not boring on my show.
Love it.
So there's that.
So that would definitely that makes sense why you would have met Ross Lepler and had him on your show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome dude.
Yeah. And and then along those lines, I just last week I got funding. I got a funding package that I applied for, and I pitched my idea for my own radio station. I'm starting my own internet radio station now, so I hope to have that up and running by August 1st. There will be plenty of good music. A little bit biased towards Prince and Neil Young, but good music.
This could be a cracking lineup of Prince and Neil Young and Stevie Wonder, and I can't see any problems with this at all.
Van Halen, no. So I got funding for that. So I've already recruited a couple contributors that will have radio programs on my station. The rest will be filled up by music and a couple of programs by myself. And as I go along, I'll recruit more program leaders. This is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting to get more sponsors for it from local business people and make this thing go around while I'm making a little bit of money and contributing to society. I'm going to give local people who are engaged in the bettering of our local environment, social environment for kids and young adults. They're going to have a lot of space on my radio station. So this will be an effort to make this area a little bit better. What else do I have going on? I mentioned stand-up comedy. I'm working in to have a whole hour for my solo show, which I will film.
Awesome.
I'm thinking early 2026, I'll film that and put that out. Probably just put it out on YouTube. Or maybe I'll put it out on my website and people can pay whatever they want. And then they can watch my stand-up show. I do stand up in English. I have to be myself while I'm doing that. Yeah. And I spend a lot of time making fun of Norwegian society, but I tease because I love. I want to make sure people understand that. And then there's my music. I'm constantly writing music for other artists and other bands. I have a record label with 6 artists on it, including myself. And that record label is a deal where I am just helping to promote them. I don't want a single penny of their money because I truly believe that music is an art and the artist should get paid. It should not be a lawyer or a record company executive in a tie who's taking their money. So this record label that I have is more of a collective where I'm supporting them and I get nothing of their royalties, nothing at all. And then my own solo music is a daily thing. You know, I'm recording this now in my studio. You can only see what's behind, but this is my studio where I do my podcast, my radio show, and record all of my music. So this is my playroom, and I'm just a lucky man. I'm incredibly blessed to do all of these things that I mentioned. I might have forgotten a couple of things, but all these things that I do to make a living and have fun. I'm
make the world a better place.
I'm very fortunate. I try. I start with myself, and then it goes to my family, and then it goes to everybody else out there.
Well, I got to say, from what I can see so far, you're doing a tremendous job of that. Just the way that you received at the championships as well, and just so easy to approach you and have a good conversation. So I really appreciate that I did get on the plane, because that plane led me to meeting you and this conversation now. And I know I've got a million more questions for you, just exploding and so I'll be back in touch to ask a few more questions for sure.
I am always available to you, my friend. I'm very glad that I met you. I'm very glad that I said yes to being the speaker for that event, because it brought me to someone like you. It brought me to a lot of good people. And, you know, here I am. I've had this wonderful conversation with you for the last 2 hours. Time flies.
Just over 2 hours. That's great. That's awesome.
And I would love to be on your show again. I'd love to get you on my show.
Oh, for sure.
As well.
Yep. Just tell me whenever. I'll be there. Until we talk next time, what is the best way for people to either find your work, reach you, talk to you, follow what you do?
If people go to my website, JohnAlanPod.com, and it's spelled JohnAlanPod.com, JohnAlanPod.com. I'll send you a link and maybe you can post it. They can also find me at John Allen Official on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how well you'll get to know me on social media. I just put, it varies from informative things to silly things to just a simple photograph. Yeah. But if you want to find the work that I do, there's those links in the bio on Facebook, link in bio on Instagram, or go to my website, JohnAlanPod.com. That's where the work I do.
John Allen Pod. We'll definitely check that out. I'll try and put as much of that information into the very sparse show notes that I tend to leave for people. So I'll try and flesh that out a little bit more, because I definitely want more people to see the work that you do. I'm really interested in the way that you are basically writing and reading and publishing a book all in one go. I find that very creative.
Oh, I can say something real quick about that. When you go to JohnAlanPod.com, after a second or two, there'll be a pop-up ad This is the only sponsorship that I have so far. I sponsor it through my book. If you click on that, you can then subscribe. And what happens is every week you will get sent a new chapter of my book. When you subscribe, of course, it starts at chapter 1, but stick with it and it'll go once a week, a new chapter. It's me reading it. So if you like my voice, there it is. It's my story. I wrote it. I'm reading it in. It costs $5, $5 a month. And if you really want to support the work I do, that's the best way to do it. That's the only sponsorship source of income that I have for the work that I do. I don't do any promotions for any products or anything, just my own work. The best way to do it is through that audiobook right there. And the writing process is very simple. I write a chapter. And basically, this is me telling my story, my own story. I write a chapter, and without any editing, I come straight to this microphone and I read in that chapter, and it goes into the subscription.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
No editing. It's raw. It's exactly what I wrote. That's what I'm reading into the people. And it's people's subscription that motivates me to continue writing. People are waiting, so I keep writing. I'm up to 20, I don't remember, 20 some odd chapters have been released so far. I think I've written 36, 37 chapters so far. They just have to get plugged into the subscription.
Gotcha.
So,
well, all right.
Yep.
John, I've loved chatting with you tonight. This is it's been fantastic.
Likewise, Nathan. Thank you so much. I love what you're doing. I've looked at a few of the clips that you've put from your show on Facebook. I love what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Keep going. It's very inspiring. Trying to. It looks like you're having fun, and you've got some great guests. And I like what you guys are talking about.
Powerlifters talking about non-powerlifting things, just having fun and trying to spread a little bit of kindness.
Well, you're spreading a lot of kindness there, man. Thank you for what you do. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me on the show.
You're welcome. Anytime.
All right.
All right.
Okay.